Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast. It is Sunday night, which means it is live time with Tubby and Jimothy. We are bringing you all the NFL, NCAA football. Of course, we might have a little bit of other sports stuff here and there. And today's the day we are breaking down the AL East and the NL East as baseball season. It's here. I saw a baseball jersey at work today, and I was excited. Welcome back to the show, Tubby. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready. I've been watching a lot of spring training baseball. I'm like in it. Been watching OU baseball, OU softball. I'm in the baseball softball mode right now.
You are, and again, we are primarily different like college football, NFL, and baseball podcasts. But did you watch OU versus Houston?
I did.
Oh, that's a crushing defeat right there. I mean, it probably was going to go to overtime anyway, and they may have lost, but that was a great crowd.
Yeah.
Man, they got to get that 20th win, man.
Yeah, Keldon Sampson's first time back in Norman in 18 years. I mean, OU, they went out and they had the game they needed. They just a few instances here and there. I mean, that last second three at the end of the half just absolutely killed them because, he doesn't make that shot at the end of the half. Maybe we're talking about a different situation here. There's just a few things here and there. And, I mean, that's what happens when you play the number one team. You have to be perfect. And they were 99.9% correct. Just wasn't that final 0.01.
Yeah. Well, in this next week, I believe, is the women's tournament. And the following week is the men's tournament. Is that right? Or am I getting that back?
No. Yeah, OU finishes up with Texas and I want to say Kansas State this week.
Yeah. So, and then they'll head into the tournament, which is here in Kansas City. So probably won't go, but maybe if I do, maybe I'll see some games. The tickets are outrageous on the first market. The secondary market, they're not bad, but if you go straight to T-Mobile's website, which is where it's being played, the T-Mobile Center, outrageous, dude.
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
Although maybe it's because it's for a full day. I don't know, or it's like a session. So maybe it's
session. Yeah.
Still, I mean, I don't want to pay hundreds of dollars to see BYU versus Oklahoma State. No thanks.
No, you don't want to watch Oklahoma State play? I mean, at least BYU's fifth in the Big 12.
That's very true. That's very true. All right, well, we're going to get into it today. As we start this episode, we are leaning into some baseball season stuff. I hope you guys are excited for baseball. The crack of the bat is just one of my favorite things outside of just hearing a baseball stadium like that. White noise that is just a commotion. Everyone's talking. Every now and then they got the PA announcer and that's just perfection in my opinion when it comes to sports. So we got boots on the ground in the chat. Go Dodgers. Do you think he's talking about Oklahoma City Dodgers or is he talking about a different team?
Go Dodgers.
Yeah. Should I be worried? You said you've watched a lot already. Shohei Ohtani took about a half a minute to go ahead and hit his first home run, which must have felt great as a fan. Cardinals haven't hit a home run yet. It's March 3rd.
I mean, that means that the Dodgers, Andy Pages has two more home runs than the Cardinals do.
Oh my gosh!
In spring training.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Last year they won the Fruit League and a lot of good that did them, but So not nervous yet. How does it feel to be a Dodgers fan now? I mean, are you feeling the pressure yet, or is it just all hype still?
I mean, it's still the hype right now. I mean, it'll be different if we say they start out the first couple months and they just look sluggish and, there's some things going on. I don't know if that'll happen. We'll see. I'm not going to – I mean, as great as they look right now during spring training, it makes me go, okay, slow down just a little bit. It's only March. It's just the beginning of March. Slow down.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Get it all out now. Move on. That's what I want to see. All right. Well, we're going to start today with the AL East. So, this back in the day, I mean, you think about baseball growing up as a kid, this was the division. This was because you had Red Sox, Yankees, even Blue Jays, Orioles back then in the early 2000s. It was everyone but the Rays at that point. So we'll start with last year's cellar dwellers, the Boston Red Sox, which thank goodness it's where they belong. Home of a new two-time Gold Glover in Tyler O'Neill. So I mean, hey, they made some moves this year. Trevor Story, he's 31 now. Does he play more than 31 games? I hope so.
Wow. Yeah, they better hope so. I mean, at least for them, at least they have Von Grissom. And once he gets healthy, just in case if Stories, doesn't stay healthy, they've got a couple of young guys. I mean, Marcelo Meyer is an absolute monster, but man, my biggest thing is like, what is going on with this rotation?
Yeah, you not like Lucas Giolito and Nick Pivetta? Like,
I mean, yeah, Giolito, you're talking about a guy that's already just getting smoked during spring training. I mean, he looks like the Giolito of the last 2 years. Pivetta, you never know how many games he's going to pitch. I love Brian Bayo. I think he is an up and coming pitcher. Cutter Crawford, he pitched good last year, but these three young guys, Bayo, Crawford, and Hawk, and they maybe push Giolito and them to the back end of the rotation and take over. If so, it may not be as bad as it looks, because they've got some decent bats there still. I mean, Tristan Casas, Rafael Devers, I mean, who's one of the most underrated players in baseball. If Stories can stay healthy, we know Stories can mash the ball. It's a rough situation what's going on at Boston right now.
Yeah, well, so for 2013 until he left, Xander Bogaerts was just great, very underrated shortstop for that team. And it feels like when he left, Rafael Devers has been that same guy. Now, for the record, I mean, we know that Bogaerts had other guys in the lineup with him, like Mookie Betts, but
yeah,
Trevor Story, this guy has to stay healthy. Tristan Casas had a great second half of this season compared to the front half, so he has all the power in the world. He's a good first baseman. It looks like that could be a good piece. And Tyler O'Neill, if it comes together, great. The dude has been an MVP candidate that 1 year it did, and it was magic. So, I like you said, the offense, I could see it. I could see this team being a wild card team if all things clicked and they stayed healthy. I think, like you said, the pitching is going to be tough. Anytime you put them up in a series, even in the regular season, if you're going to go against a 1-2-3 for another team, or a 3-4-5, like how is your team good enough to even overcome theirs? And they're going to be in a division where there's quite a few good offenses, so pitching is going to be primary. Kenley Jansen, yeah.
He may not even be on the opening day team. There's a good chance he gets traded. I know the Dodgers have, kicked the tires on him a few times this offseason about maybe bringing him over. I don't know. I think there's a good chance that we see him get traded during spring training, just because, age and stuff like that. They're just kind of like, we don't really care to have the contract, so if someone wants to take him off our hands. He had a solid year last year, for an older reliever, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if he'll be there at least all season. There's a chance he's going to get traded at some point.
Yeah. I didn't realize this, but they also had CJ Cron on this team. He's an on-roster invitee, but maybe he makes it as some depth on the infield. I don't know. This is a team that I think if you're a Boston fan, even in the offseason, you were kind of like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And I think that kind of reflects with what we said is like, what are we doing?
At least they were smart and got rid of Bloom this last offseason. The guy needed to go. Every move he made was the wrong move. And except for maybe the Bogaerts deal, it's not looking so bad right now, because Bogaerts had a pretty rough season last year out in San Diego. So maybe he was smart and cut ties at the right time, except for he probably should have traded him instead of just out and out letting him go.
Yeah. I'll say the Devers deal. I didn't think it was going to happen. I think both of us were a little surprised. So you're right. Good thing their front office, he's now with the Cardinals guy. Did you know that? Some of the guys are through, and I'm not excited about it, but
yeah,
we'll get more onto that later. As a little side note, Cardinals signed Brandon Crawford, and that's one of the few times that I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah. Mason Wynn, I think, will be great, but depth-wise, in a crunch situation, I think he's going to make the right play.
What better person to help coach Wynn along than one of the better, one of the best defensive shortstops we've seen in the last how many years, and we know the arm that Mason Wynn has. So yeah, I think it was a great signing to bring in an older guy to kind of teach Mason Wynn the ropes a little bit.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's getting roasted on any platform that reports sporting news right now by Cardinal fans. They're like, just getting all these old guys. And I'm like, I get this one. Like,
Yeah.
The Matt Carpenter, okay, I kind of get it because here's the thing. The Matt Carpenter one, it can't be about baseball. It has to be about clubhouse. And I think that's what Brandon Crawford can do too. It has to be about clubhouse. Because if there's one thing that we're seeing now, is this is the first spring training that the Cardinals walked into without Pujols, without Waino, without Molina walking in there and being a part of it. And we need those guys. And as much as I want Arenado and Goldie to be there, I don't know that they are. And if it can be these other guys, okay, there we go. I'm not saying anything against those guys. They're great, all-stars. Yeah. But that's what they're positioned throughout parts of their career. So anyway, we're getting on the Cardinals. That's next week. So I'm just a Cardinal fan. Sorry, everybody. All right, so let's move over to the Yankees. Believe it or not, they were 82-80 last year, but they finished fourth in this pretty much stacked division. Did make some moves this year to really bolster something. The lineup, give Judge some help, please. And if there's one person who's more on fire than the Dodgers, it might be Juan Soto in the spring training, which again doesn't mean anything. But what are you seeing with the Yankees?
I'm glad for Aaron Judge that they finally put a few other guys around them, because last year everyone was like, oh, they're going to win the World Series, and we were both just like, but what did they do? They did nothing, really to support him in that lineup. You go out and you get Juan Soto, who's one of the best up-and-coming young players in baseball. Verdugo, all he did was just hit double after double last year in Boston. Now you give him a couple of guys in that lineup with some older guys like Rizzo and, Stanton. You got Volpe. Maybe he can get the average, up this year. I like what they did there just because, like I said, he really had no support in that lineup, all of last year. The biggest thing for me is what's going to happen outside of Garrett Cole. Do we get a healthy, Carlos Rodon? That's a big if.
Marcus Stroman, I think, is a good number 3, though.
Yeah, Stroman, I think, was a great signing. Nestor Cortez, can he get healthy, and can he be the 2022 Nestor Cortez where he had all the stuff? I don't know. Maybe there's still a move out there for them, a guy that is still on free agency, been, rumored going to the Yankees.
Sometimes the Blake Snell.
Yeah, I mean, but I love the Soto deal. I think Soto's going to have a monster season with Judge there. Got the short porch in right field, left-handed, hitter. He can pull that ball. I think there's a chance that we see Soto make a good run at the MVP this year.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I hate the Nationals. I never liked him. Could care less about the Dodgers. I'm like, gah, never liked the Dodgers. I do like the Yankees. They're probably one of my favorite teams just sports-wise because they're so successful, and it's just iconic. Like, again, we're very opposite. I hate the Red Sox. You're like, hate the Yankees. Here we are. Yeah. But, I'm like, Juan Soto, if he does well there, I like that on him. I like that. Good for him. Good for him. It's almost it's that little shimmy that he does on a taken ball, It's like, but even in the Yankee uniform, I'll be better about it.
Yeah, I can't stand that. That's one thing that just irks me. I'm like, why? Okay, I'm like, oh, I took a ball.
Yeah, I do like this lineup though. Overall, I think it's sneak. It's very sneaky. There's really good right-left balance in that field. Giancarlo Stanton was the best shape of his life. So, that's true. That's saying something because the dude is jacked. I mean, every person in this lineup, you're like, man, I really feel like, they're still solid, right? Like it's not going to be easy out. So at the very least, their offense should be able to do it. The big question then, is going to be, I think, is going to be the bullpen. Do you find, those guys who can lock down the late inning games? And, it's the Yankees. They're always going to be in play for something. So my biggest thing is this team should make the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. To me, it'll come down to attrition. Can they stay healthy? Can the right guy stay healthy? I mean, Judge has had injury history. Last year, he showed it. He missed, a good portion of the, early on in the season. Stanton has injury history. Rodon has injury history. Nestor Cortez, a lot of the key guys have had injury problems throughout their career. So as they're getting older, those injury problems seem to rear their head a little bit more. So if they can stay healthy, this team absolutely should, at worst, be a wild card team.
Yeah. Who is the guy that's their giant? Oh, Spencer Jones.
Spencer Jones, yeah.
Dude, It is cool, like, to see a guy that is so big coming out. Like, I don't know what they're doing in New York to get all these massive guys, but apparently they're doing something.
Yeah, that's all they're doing when they're scouting. All right, it has to be at least 6'5" or bigger. Sorry.
Yeah. Ooh, yep, got him. So
Yeah,
I mean, he's making a splash right now. So
yeah.
All right, let's move on to another. They've just been routinely in the playoffs. Not that any. They have been routinely in the playoffs the last couple of years. They have been almost always at the top. There has been when it comes to offensive categories, they have had some shifting of different players. So when you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, led of course by Vlad Jr., Justin Turner's over there this year, trying to just be one of those guys in the lineup that keeps moving the ladder, moving the chains, whatever you want to say. But Alejandro Kirk, everyone's favorite. What are you seeing in them this year?
It's can they overcome the super disappointing season last year? I mean, as well as they played late and stuff like that, I think there's a lot of high expectations for this team to really be a legit ALCS team, against Houston and, some of those bigger teams. It really depends on which Alex Manoah are they getting. I mean, he's already looked rough during spring. It's crazy. I don't know if I can remember a guy going from second in the Cy Young, and then all of a sudden it's just, he's down in the Florida Complex League. He's pitching that bad, and then it just all season. And really, it depends on how much has that window shrunk. We saw the window open for a little bit because they had some really young, good young guys with Vlad and Bo Bichette. Chapman looked really good for the most part, last year. And they had some of these younger guys. You're like, they could really, make some moves, and they just really kind of have just plateaued. So can they be able to move it along? I mean, losing Chapman third, it hurts. Now they have a young kid down there, or Elvis Martinez, who I think will probably at some point we'll see him playing third. He's it was in between. Is he a short? Is he a third guy? I think they can plug him right in third and maybe see what he can do for him offensive wise, because the kid has a plus power bat, down in the minor leagues.
Yeah, so, and Isaiah kind of he is what he is. Like, he's penciled in his eighth or so in the lineup, what you'd expect. He's good, but if you have someone who might provide a little bit more potential, I think I could definitely see that move happening. I mean, this is a lineup that looks really good in the top half, and the bottom half, you're like, I'm not quite sure. Kevin Gossman, Jose Barrios, Chris Bassett. I mean, these are guys. Yusei Kikuchi even had a decent season. So I think the pitching is sneaky there. It's just, can they all come together? And I'm one of those people who's probably going to say, and it's probably too early for me to be saying this, but I'm kind of out on Alek Manoah. I don't know that I don't know he did it long enough to give me credit thinking, he'll do it again, rather than, man, the dude is on a hot streak. Yeah. Incredible job, and unfortunately, it looks like whatever it was, he lost it. And here's the thing about pitching, from what I've heard from watching interviews with some of the greats like Greg Maddux and stuff like that, of like, and Adam Wainwright, of like, you may have 4 pitches, right? And last week, that fastball and that changeup, man, that combo was working. This week, I can't get my changeup right, and so now I'm using my cutter and my curveball and stuff like that. For a guy like Alek Manoah, like, maybe that's the problem. Maybe he doesn't have all those pitches. He's lost it too much, and so now he's trying to get all of it back all at once. And so oftentimes what you see in these starting pitchers is eventually they move to the bullpen because I've lost sight of, I can't get all 3 or 4 of them right. So I got to work on 1 or 2 and just get for 2 innings maybe, or an inning. And they can become extremely successful bullpen guys, but you wonder if this doesn't work out on this next step, it looks like he might be moving to the bullpen or a new place. And then eventually bullpen.
Yeah, to me, it seems like a lot of it's mental. Like, it's upstairs. He has got the yips, and he cannot locate his pitches. It really has no control. And it seems like they've tried a lot of things, and so far nothing's clicked. So, yeah, I think it's either they find a spot in the bullpen or they DFA him at some point this year if it doesn't click.
You don't think any team would just throw out a low-level prospect?
I'm sure there's someone, like the Giants, one of those obscure teams, will throw something out there. So, yeah, there's a good chance. But, even if you DFA the guy, you can still trade him. So
that's true. Yeah. All right. Well, this Blue Jays team, it sounds like they could be a playoff team, but if they wouldn't surprise us if they didn't make it, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Wow. That's disappointing if you're Toronto. That's how hard baseball is, though, to have that window stay open.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Like you said, that window, it looked like it was open, and then it's slowly just, shutting. So they have to do something. They have to show me something this year to think, okay, there's a chance that window's maybe a little bit further open than we think.
Yeah, crack that thing open. Come on now. Yeah. We need Vladdy Jr. to go back off, okay?
Yeah, Bo Bichette, I mean, he's one of my favorite players in baseball. The guy, all he does is hit. I mean, it's plain and simple. He just hits. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move over to Tampa Bay Rays. This team is, last year, what did they go? 80, 90, what was it? How many wins did they have? 99 wins? 99 wins?
Yeah, something. Yeah.
And then, this is a team, when you look at all the stats, the rankings, this is a team that absolutely, they know what they're doing on the computer side of baseball. And I think they know what they're doing on the baseball side of baseball for the regular season. But this is a team. Why are we even talking about this? I think this team makes the playoffs if all things go right. They're going to squeeze the last drop out of someone, and they're going to find a diamond in the rough, win some trade that they did 3 years ago with some dude. And it's not going to matter because they're going to lose in the first round. What's changed?
Nothing. It's the same baseball mindset that they've had. Like my notes was, they'll continue the success with the non-household names, but fall short when it comes to the playoffs. I think one guy, I mean, really the one thing that I look at is like the pitching, and it's like every year you kind of go, oh, that guy's kind of an obscure name, and you've got three guys that have were absolutely just on fire right off the bat for you. Two of them have Tommy John, the other one has some big shoulder issues, and you're just like, is the pitching as good as it, was? I think a kid that I was super high on injuries, hurt him the last couple of years, that it seems like he's healthy. He's going to start out in the extended spring training, Shane Bass. If he can get healthy, that the kid has everything to be the front of a line, just shut down pitcher. He has a plus fastball, a plus slider, above average solid curveball, and a plus changeup. I mean, he has 4 or 5 plus pitches. Just can't get healthy. If he can get healthy, that kid is a different level for them in the rotation. And
they're projecting that he will at some point sneak in, maybe halfway through the year is kind of what they're looking at.
Yeah, and Junior Caminero. I mean, how I get they have their methods and stuff like that, but put the kid in the lineup. He has to be on the opening day roster. I mean, you got Aranda, who last year hit 230 and had 2 home runs. Caballero, 4 home runs. Luckily for him, at least he produces some stolen bases. But bring the kid up. Let him DH. Let him play third. Let him play shortstop. Let him play something. Because that kid right now is tearing it up in spring, and he has everything that you look for in a potential big bat. That kind of what they thought they had in Julio or Franco before all the drama and stuff happened. He has that potential to be that spark plug. I mean, the kid just knows how to hit. I mean, he had 31 home runs and 94 RBIs last year between AA and AAA.
Well, and the thing is even like on Fangraphs, he's not projected to make it until next year. So if he does this year, it's like that September call up, which you could see that. And again, part of it's going to dictate what does this team look like as they go forward. Do they find the person that can DH outside of who we just talked about, Jonathan Aranda, who? How do you have a DH hitting that bat? You're not using the DH right. Literally, all you're supposed to do, I don't need you to do nothing else. Just hit the ball. Go pay JD Martinez $8 million to do this better. And then trade him at the deadline and then bring up this guy. Like, there's lots of pieces of the puzzle. Here's the thing. The Rays are probably going to figure it out. Going to win 90 games, 95 games, be in the playoff hunt, and no one's going to be talking about him, as probably shouldn't. This man, what if this doesn't age well? What if this is the year? What if a Rays fan is like, this
probably will be. Let's just hope that they don't have a home playoff series at all, because we saw what happened last year. You know, one of the best teams in baseball, and no one shows up. Was it 2,000 people at, or it was just like at a day playoff game?
Yeah.
It was,
You could walk around the concourse and bought a visiting team jersey, probably pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like just sold. And here's the other thing. Like this is the team that was trying to do, we'll have 40 home games here and 40 in Canada. Not like Canada's across the. Now it would have made more sense to have had 40 games in the Dominican Republic or Cuba or something than it did Canada. What do we? So I don't know. This team, I don't care.
They are what they are.
Be better.
Yeah.
Be better. So all right, let's move over to last year's champion. This division absolutely stormed out the gates. Jackson Holiday is a lot of the talk. He had an at-bat against Paul Skeens.
Yeah, Paul Skeens, yeah.
Oh, man. And that one wasn't really televised that much, but people found out about it. But I think that was a miss.
Yeah.
Spring training
absolutely
is such a wash. It's hard to know, but once you hear about it, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, if you had an idea, if you're baseball at MLB Network, you're like, okay, we have to do whatever we do, at least to get that at-bat on TV.
Yeah. And because the thing is, at least for the Baltimore side, they're following Jackson everywhere.
Oh,
and you gotta imagine the same thing for Paul is like they're following this guy everywhere at their side, seeing how quickly he can rise through the ranks. But so should have been easy. But here we are. We got Baltimore last year, winners of 100+ games, a lot of homegrown offensive talent, and that's what it looks like their makeup is. Mm-hmm. They're going to develop bats, and they're going to go find pitching. This Corbin Burns, obviously Grayson Rodriguez there, Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, and Cole Irvin are scheduled to be their starting pitchers. I like the 1-2 punch. I think it's one of a really solid 1-2 punch, maybe one of the best, especially even in this division.
Yeah, that was my what I put down is can the pitching outside of Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez meet the offense?
Yeah.
Somewhere. So, I mean, because Grayson Rodriguez, after he got recalled, from the AAA, he had like a 2.35 ERA and like 12 starts. And the kid, it finally clicked, and we saw the Grayson Rodriguez that we saw down in the minor leagues. And I think getting Corbin Burns was an incredible move. Like I said, you didn't really give up a whole lot for the guy, and maybe you've got money, you got those old, those young guys. They don't need to be paid anytime soon. Pay the guy up for a couple years. Go out there, sign Jordan Montgomery. Make him your third starter. I mean, we're talking about a team that would be really hard to beat in the AL.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they haven't done that. I think maybe it's just barely outside the range of what they want to pay. But this is a team that they've done a great job of developing the offensive talent. Go get him. We just talked about the Blue Jays and how quickly that window seems like it's going to shut on you if you're not careful. Go get it. Go beat the Dodgers. Gah.
No, don't beat the Dodgers. Just beat Houston and anyone else in the AL, and then you can lose to the Dodgers in the World Series.
This does feel like a team that, if you put it together, could be the class of the AL if they can do that. They are, I think, like you said, that really solid third starter away from doing it, because this offense, I mean, I don't know that Jackson Holiday officially will make the team. There's still an outside chance, but especially with all the draft compensations that you get if he wins, the whole thing and the Rookie of the Year. But this lineup is pretty solid. It's got a lot of balance to it, a lot of really good power. It's not like over the top Aaron Judge stuff, but this is a consistent lineup that there's no super easy outs as you go up and down the lineup, at least as it says on paper.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance that the Holiday actually makes it. I mean, part of it will really depend on what is up with Gunnar Henderson, with the injury. But I mean, the way it sounds like he's been playing a lot at second during spring training, and if there's one position maybe that you need second baseman in that infield, that infield has a chance to be, one of the best in baseball once all these young guys come up, and if they, are what we've seen down in the minor leagues, man, this team has a chance to be good for years if they do it right. I think he said, go out and make those moves that you typically wouldn't do, because right now that window's open for you. Go out and sign Jordan Montgomery, and just do what these teams have been doing when they're signed Chapman and the Bellinger. Give them a couple year, 2-year, 3-year deal, and go, okay, you have an opt out of the first year, and after the second year, if you don't want to be here, and that way it probably takes the ABV down just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't want to forget about doing it on the back end of this because we're going to get to football here in a little bit. But the Matt Chapman deal, 3 years, $54 million. Give that deal a grade.
I think it's a great deal for them. I mean, for the Giants, yeah. As a Dodgers fan, I hate seeing it. It just depends on if the bat can do what it did last year, at least for most of the season. The glove, we know, is he's still a really solid defensive third baseman. I'll give it an A because, like you said, you got him for relatively cheap. And then for Chapman, too, it's one of those things where he can opt out of the first year or the second year if he wants to. So it doesn't hold him there, a whole long time. But, fire the agent. Dude's what he's doing right now is not working.
It does feel like Scott Boris's timeline of the success rate that he had. The baseball has changed, but he has not changed his ways.
Nope.
And he's one of the biggest proponents to not having that 2-week free agency period either, because he wants to be able to do stuff like this if he needs to. But I think he should be seeing now at least. It doesn't work the way you want it.
Nope.
So at least not anymore.
You're talking about your biggest free agent not having a home right now because of what you're doing.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough sell. I mean, it's World Series winner, Cy Young winner. That's brutal. So real quick, Joey Gallo is on the Baltimore Orioles.
How's this? Really?
Yeah.
I thought he was.
Oh no, I just switched over the screen. I forgot.
I thought he was with one of the Nationals, isn't he?
Yes, he's with the Nationals.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, that helps me out here. All right, so I'm gonna move over real quick. Joey Gallo going to the National. Unless I missed anything. Anything else you want to say about Baltimore?
No, I think we got it. Yeah.
All right. So looking at the Washington Nationals last year, 71 wins, which I think is a pretty successful year in the deep rebuild that they're in the middle of right now. Joey Gallo was brought in this year. Jesse Winkler is also a non-roster invitee for spring training. There's some new faces here. Victor Robles, I think we know who he's going to be. He's not going to be the guy that they wanted, but all these different pieces, CJ Abrams, Lane Thomas. If you would have told me with the Cardinals, this dude was going to hit 30 home runs and 85 RBIs and hit 280, I would have said, keep him. No,
yeah, right.
So it's just another one of the outfielders the Cardinals moved on from. But Joey Gallo, I laugh because last year, remember the debate we had on the shift and how we're like, it's going to help these guys or is it not going to help these guys? And I'm pretty sure we said it wasn't going to help a guy like Joey Gallo. Is that right?
Yeah.
And here we are. He's projected for 191. How much longer is this? People like this going to be able to stay?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for those guys like him and I guess you can't put him in the Schwarber because Schwarber will hit 30 home runs in a blink of an eye. But at least for them, there's always that potential. If they can find it, we know that the power is there. And so with the way teams view batting average, right now in baseball, at least for him, he's like, well, I don't have to hit, 250, 260. I can hit 190. And if I can hit 20 home runs, okay, cool.
Yeah. What is the biggest building block? If you're looking at the Nationals this year, as a fan, what are you hopeful for?
So for them, don't expect to compete this year. Just because, you're young, but this is a team that I look at in the next couple of years. If the dominoes fall the right way, you have so much young potential down in the minor leagues and some of the guys up in the majors. These are some of the guys I wrote down, and this is a very long list that if they fall the right way, we're talking about a team in the National League that will compete with the Braves, the Dodgers, and, the top teams in the National League. We got CJ Abrams, Kyrat Ruiz, Luis Garcia, Josiah Gray, Mackenzie Gore, Brady House, James Wood, Robert Hassel, Dylan Cruz, Elijah Green, Cole Henry, Cade Cavalli. You're talking about that Soto trade completely restarted their whole building process. When we're looking at it and we're like, okay, they got Soto and they have nothing down in the minor league system. And you were able to get, Abrams and Gore and Wood and Hassel in that trade. And then you turn around and draft Dylan Cruz, who's just flew up, during the minors. James Wood is absolutely probably up there with Juan Soto as the hottest hitters in baseball right now in spring training. They have the potential. Yeah, if they have the potential, if it all falls the right way, this is a very scary team in the next couple of years.
and I don't like the Nationals, but maybe I like them more this version. No more Harper and stuff like that. I think you're 100% right. You look at the rotation. This is a team that's built to hopefully eat a lot of innings, but not a whole lot else. So 70. We'll get to projections and stuff like that on the year later on, but this is a team that probably finishes towards the bottom of the division. But don't worry, it's gonna be okay. Tubby says it's gonna be fine. Just look long term.
Yeah, they're about a year or two away from, if these young guys figure it out and hit like they can.
Yeah,
for the sun shining through the clouds, and you're going, oh, we're back in baseball. We're not the bottom dwellers anymore.
So how did they do as well trading away Soto and people like the Diamondbacks, who, yes, the Diamondbacks won the World Series, but none of the pieces that they gave away for Goldschmidt worked out, or the Rockies, who gave up a bag of beans and paid for those beans for the Cardinals, for Arenado. Like, how does this work out so well? Is it just better player recognition, like understanding who's out there and what ones you want?
Yeah, and then honestly, the haul that they got was insane. I mean, really, you look at like what the Rockies got for Arenado, and when the trade went through, we were both like, "Wait, what?" And it was kind of the same thing with the Goldschmidt deal. The Nationals said, "Hey, we got all the cards. We know the Padres. They're trying their hardest," and that's what they did. They found a team with a really high farm system with 3 or 4 guys that they're like, we see huge potential in these kids. Let's go out and just pillage that farm system. And that's exactly what they did. And right now, it's looking pretty good the way these players have started to take that leap forward.
Yeah. Well, we talk about one team who's really built and identified players and developed them pretty well over the last couple of years. Now let's look at a team that's trying to buy those players. The Mets last year, Mets and Cardinals were the 2 of the most disappointing teams in all of baseball in recent memory. I mean, Padres were up there too. They just had some tough luck. Anyway, so Mets last year, 75-87. Really trying to change things up this year. As a Mets fan, last year, remember this team's aces. They're 1 and 2. This year, it's Jose Quintana and Luis Severino.
Yeah. This is a hard thing for Mets fans. I guess they should be used to it. They're used to disappointment. But you go from last year with all the hype and, we got DeGrom, we got Scherzer, we got these guys that, Kodai Senga, Senga was great. Now there's the questions with Senga.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is going to be a rough year for you. This is probably going to be rougher than it was last year. Maybe not as bad just because the expectations probably aren't as high. But, I mean, like you said, that rotation, you name Quintana and Severino, then you go Shaman, Adrian Hauser, Tyler McGill. This is one of the worst rotations in baseball. I mean, Quintana was solid the last couple of years, but, I mean, Severino can't stay healthy. Manaea, he's been a shell of himself from what he was in Oakland. Adrian Hauser, I mean, I love the Oklahoma kid, but he just hasn't shown that he can stick in a rotation. Same thing with McGill. It's just the up and down. So it's going to be bad. I really think it is.
Yeah, and Francisco Lindor on the offense. I'm going to transition a little bit to the offensive side of things. Pete Alonso is going to do his stuff. 250, 40 home runs. Great. Francisco Lindor is kind of that middle guy. Like, okay, he's got to be productive, but can he continue to do it? I think what we saw last year is a little bit of what's to come, and I'm nervous that the next 2 years are gonna be his last real productive years. Jeff McNeil, I don't trust him. No. There's just so much on this lineup. Brandon Nimmo, I just can't. I don't. Harrison Bader's been injured. I love the guy. He's a lot of energy and all that kind of stuff. But man, if I said which one are you more likely to see at the bottom of the division, the Mets or the Nats?
Oh, it's the Mets for sure.
Wow. I thought you'd still say the Nationals. Okay.
I like the young potential. I mean, who expected the Nationals to win 72 games last year?
That's true.
So I think that they are finding themselves moving forward a little bit. The Mets, they had all the hype and they fell hard, and I think they're going to fall even harder this year.
Okay. It's going to be tough. Let's move on to the Marlins. This is a team with the reigning Almost said manager of the year,
Yeah.
right? Didn't he win it last year? Schumacher last year? I
Uh,
remember who won it.
I don't. Yeah, I think he did.
Which is nice because 84 and 78.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a team that you tell me. I'm not going to explain anything. You tell me. What do you see on the Marlins?
The same thing we've seen for the last 5-6 years. You've
Hey,
got a great, yeah, yeah. You've got a great rotation, and you're scratching your head, going, "Well, where's the offense going to come from?" I mean, even without Sandy in that rotation's still one of the best in the National League, and maybe all baseball. But the rest of it, you're just like, go out and do something.
Yeah.
Try. I mean, you signed Tim Anderson, a guy that we've talked about the last couple of years. The offense has dipped so hard on the guy. Maybe he just needed a new location. Maybe that's all it was. I don't know. But gosh, this offense is ugly. And the thing is like they don't have nothing down in the minor leagues that you go, oh, maybe this kid could come up and spark something. No, all their prospects are pitchers.
So they're the inverse of the Orioles.
Pretty much.
Develop pitchers, and we find the scraps of the hitters. They don't find the good hitters yet. But
yeah, maybe they should make a trade. They could do some damage.
I think they could. I do like Jake Berger there. He's been really good. Brian De La Cruz, I think he's decent. In the outfield. There's a lot to be desired. Jazz Chisholm, how many games does he play? Josh Bell, I just am not a fan. He had one good year, and I think it was 2017, something like that, 2019, with the Pirates. In both those years, it was a juice ball. And really, since then, he's been hot at times. He's a streaky guy.
Yeah, it's half the season, half the season, half the season, half the season. He maybe in the last couple of years he's put together like with each half, maybe like 2 decent years if you would put them together. But yeah, I'm the same way. Find something. I mean, all you're doing is just letting this rotation just rot. I mean, you've got some great young pitchers. Luzardo pitched great. Uri Perez is one of the best up and coming young pitchers in baseball. Same with Cabrera. You got
he's great.
AJ Puck, who they're talking like he may make the move from the bullpen to the rotation, depending on what happens with Trevor Rogers. And he's looked great during the spring, but he looked really good, and solid in the bullpen last year. Finally, it seemed like he was finding some of that potential. They've got the pitchers. Just find some hitters somewhere.
Yeah. Well, speaking of hitters, who's more likely to go over? Tim Anderson, 8 home runs, or Luis Ariz, a 350 batting average?
I'll go with Tim, just because.
Really, 10 home runs? The dude had 1 last year.
Just like I said, maybe it was located. I mean, that whole the whole White Sox thing, that whole organization is just a dumpster fire. So, everything. We know he can do it. The thing with Arias is just, I mean, he started out so hot, and then at the end of the season, that average just every single week was just steadily dropping, 10 points each week. So it's hard for someone to consistently hit like that. Yeah, I think it's a little tougher for him than it would be to say that somehow Tim Anderson walked into a couple of home runs.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move over now to the team that I think a lot of people were gonna pick to win this division. Or no, well, one of the 2 teams. Let's move to the Phillies. I'll get to the Braves. I have a really big Braves question I want to get to, so I'll hold off. We've already mentioned Kyle Schwarber once. This dude, this lineup, they have all the offensive power. They have some starting pitching. I think when I look at this team, like, this is a scary team. I think people should be on the lookout. Circle this team as a playoff, like, deep playoff contender team. Just the way they're built. As much as I don't like Kyle Schwarber, somehow him in a leadoff role hitting 210 works. Yeah. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Bohm, JT Realmuto, your catcher, hitting 7th. And he's not the same as he was, but he's still really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Aaron Nola has a good year this year and plays like a 2, this team really looks good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the rotation shocked me last year. I thought, I'm not big on Ranger Suarez. He pitched really good last year. Taijuan Walker had a really solid first half of the season, kind of fell off in the second half. The bullpen, can the bullpen match what they did last year? Because I thought the bullpen was going to be one of their weak spots, and the bullpen was actually really solid for this team. Mm-hmm. My biggest question is, can they put together a full season? We've seen it last 2 seasons where early on this team just looks like okay, but they're somehow they're bad, and then it's like, oh, last half of the season is this hard push, and they make a pretty solid run in the playoffs, and they put it all together because eventually, at some point, it's going to catch you if you don't play a complete season of baseball. But you said that offense, you can match it up against any offense in baseball, and they're going to put up runs. So it's really going to come down, can the pitching match it, and same with the bullpen. Can the bullpen be what it was? Can Ranger Suarez, can Taijuan Walker pitch as good as they did last year? And can we Nola kind of find a little bit that he was missing a little bit there most of the season?
I think you walk into some seasons and there's always like this thought of this team has it. Like, oh, I could see this team feels like they have it. Last year, the Padres, they thought they had it, but I think we all knew on the other side, like, I don't think they have it. The Mets, they think they have it. I don't think they have it. But like the Dodgers, the Braves, this team right here, the Phillies, like, I think they have it. I think, and here's the thing: 2 teams make the NLCS.
Yep.
So of those 3 teams, and we're going to talk about them all in the preview episode, but one of them isn't going to make it.
Nope. No.
I'm just trying to sneak that one in. All right, let's talk about the number 1 offensive in all of baseball last year. We had the Atlanta Braves. The biggest worry here, and this is what got me sidetracked here almost for a second, was Ronald Acuna Jr. having to get an MRI. I haven't heard any of the news yet of any results or when it was, but that is, I would just, I'm nervous now.
Yeah, that it's definitely puts a little worry into you if you're a Braves front office or just a Braves fan. The best player in baseball last year. Already, spring training, something's not quite right. How much did he put into last year? Can he replicate it again this season? It's my thing. Can the off-season moves that some of them for me were head scratching. Some of them like the potential, with Chris Sale, if he can find it, you got you a great pitcher. It's just which Chris Sale are we getting? Are we getting the Chris Sale that can third 30 games, or are we getting the Chris Sale that will play, pitch 8 and then be out the rest of the season? It's just kind of there's some questions, a little more questions I think than we thought there would be going into it with this team. And can they overcome 2 very disappointing playoffs, back-to-back, losses in the NLDS? Can they overcome that?
Yeah, that's legit. Right now, all that to be said, they have to make sure that Ronald Acuna is healthy. That is, that's terrifying to look at. This team right here. Marcell Ozuna came back. He's going to be DH. This dude quietly last year had 30 home runs again, and just monster season. Yeah, and you're like, where did this come from? Cardinals didn't get it, but he's still being productive. Sean Murphy, can he have a repeated next year? Like last year was. We saw it coming over the hill, like the car coming. Oh, and now we really see it, but does it stay there? But this lineup, everybody in this lineup is productive. It is crazy to see. But if they miss out, if they don't make that deep playoff run, win a World Series again or something like that, you have to start wondering, because they have a lot of these guys extended, and then you begin to say, like, what are we missing? What are we competing with? And so far, it's been pitching. I love the sale move. I think this dude could, if he's healthy, and I change the scenery, I think it could help a lot. So, it's going to be the NL right now, man.
Yeah, there's some really tough teams in that NL.
Yeah,
like you said, only 2 make it to the CS, and only 1 makes it to the World Series,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to continue on our previews next week with the NL Central. That's right. The Cardinals are going to win the World Series. You heard it here first, folks. I didn't say what year, though. So, and then we'll go over to the NL West, is where you're going to have a couple playoff teams over there, as well as a World Series tender last year. I don't really want to say they lost, but still, Diamondback. Let's go. So we'll get to that. But right now, we're going to move over a little bit from the baseball to some combine news. I would love to know some of your thoughts. Before we hit that, though, before I forget, let's get over some quick news and notes. Chiefs do tag L'Jarius Snead, but they're going to allow him to seek out a trade. That makes sense. I think football is a business, right? You don't want to see it part of what happens in the game of football, and it's part of the contract thing. So any surprises there?
No, it was basically they had to choose. You keeping Chris Jones or you keeping L'Jarius Snead. 10 times out of 10, you're keeping Chris Jones. So that's just pretty much the way it came. And so it's not a shocker. I think they can get a pretty decent chunk for the guy because, I mean, he was an all-pro corner last year. I think I mean, the corners are a little bit better than I thought in this draft, but someone's going to give you a decent amount for the guy.
Yeah. And then the NFL is trying to get the NFL Players Association to agree to an 18-game regular season. When is too much too much? Is 18 fine?
No. I mean, what's the point? I guess just revenue, you add in more money. But they're like, oh, well, we're going to go to a 20-week season now and have 2 bye weeks. And are we just going to we might as well just get rid of the preseason.
So
what are we doing?
If they get rid of a preseason game, so they have 2 and they have 18 games.
No, they're talking about getting rid of the whole preseason.
Oh,
not just a game, the whole preseason. Yeah,
18 games. I mean, I'm fine. I don't need 18 games. I like 16. It looked better.
My thing is that you get rid of the preseason, and now you got these guys like last year with the Jets. You had Brownlee make the team, Xavier Gibson make the team. Now they don't really get that chance to showcase themselves in a preseason game to really push for that. So as much as we say preseason doesn't matter for the most part, it does for those guys at the bottom of the roster fighting for those final roster spots. Now you take that away, where's the fight? I mean, yeah, you can see as much as you want in practice, but until it's at least a live game, you can't really see it all.
Yeah, I think you're right. I hope they don't do it. I missed 16 just because I knew.
Yeah,
I mean,
me
people
too.
who grew up with. I'm sure people who grew up with 14-game regular seasons hated 16. So maybe we're just getting old. I had to zoom in to see fan
probably.
So, geez, what is this? All right, we know you watched it. We know you took in everything when it came to the combine. Tubby, give us some of your big takeaways. What are some of your big recaps?
Yeah.
We had a new record when it came. to
We did. Yeah. So the first thing on there is you can tell I'm an OU fan, and the Texas players killed the combine. Texas players had a great combine. I mean, Byron Murphy has put himself in that conversation for being the top defensive tackle taken. T'Vondre Sweat. I mean, the guy is 6'4" and a half, 366 pounds, ran a 5.27.
He's moving.
The dude is a just absolute run stuffer. And then you got A.D. Mitchell, runs a 4.34, and you're like, man, that's a great time. Well, then you take a peek at his teammate there. He goes out there and blazes a 4.21, and they had a great combine for those players. They have definitely helped themselves out, moving forward. The one thing, and I don't want to sound like I am a bitter OU fan, but the fact now that we're talking about Worthy being the 4th wide receiver taken just kind of blows my mind. And it's nothing against the kid. 4.21 is absolutely impressive. It is insanely impressive to be able to do that. But I still have a lot of questions on the kid's hands tracking the ball as fast as he is. You think of a straight line runner, deep threat. You got to be able to track the ball. He has issues there. So I mean, for these people that are pushing him up to the 4th, wide receiver, I still have him down in the 15, 16 range out of the wide receivers.
Wow.
But the big part of that is this wide receiver group is absolutely stacked. So it's nothing against him. It's just, I view that there's quite a few players better than him. Another team, FSU, their players absolutely killed the combine also. Keon Coleman went out there, ran a little slower than I expected, but then just went out there and just killed the drills. He was the fastest wide receiver in the gauntlet drill. He hit 20 miles an hour running a straight line, catching footballs. I mean, the kid trusts his hands. Braden Fisk, to me, I think helped himself out more than any player. With a weak defensive line, defensive tackle draft, the kid goes out there, runs a 4.79, kills the drills. And even when he's running the 40, he knew he ran fast, and he goes, "Oh yeah." And so he helped himself out a lot. Couple of corners, Max Melton from Rutgers, absolute, runs a 4.39, has a 40.5-inch vertical, 11.4 broad, and he was smooth in the drills, hips, wasn't tight. Mike Sanderstrill from Michigan, we talked about him quite a few times in going into the playoffs. a smaller slot corner, and kid is explosive. I mean, all the combine numbers were insane. You know, he's like 5'9", had like a 40-inch vertical, 41-inch vertical, something like that. Runs a 4.47. He definitely helped himself quite a bit. Peyton Wilson, linebacker from NC State. Kid is 6'4", 233 pounds. All he does is go out there and run a 4.4 340. Just blazing, and look great in all the drills. He is a tackling machine. He has a nose for the football. And then I'm going to talk about a guy that is on everyone's top 10, maybe top 5, Roman Dunze. And did he help himself in the draft? No, just because he's that high, there's not really much to move. But the thing was, he checked everything physical, but it was the character things afterwards that he really checked off. He stayed. He was the last person off the field because he's so competitive and was competing out there that he was trying to hit a certain time in the 3-cone drill, that he stayed out there and he ran the 3-cone drill 7 times to try to hit that mark. And to me, that moves him up my board a little bit more, just because it shows me the kid's not afraid. I mean, he had nothing to gain really from going out there. Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't show up. Neighbors, he goes in, does his physicals, meets with some teams, leaves. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't even show up for his press conference, which to me, I think it throws up a little bit of a red flag.
He's a wide receiver, though. He's supposed to.
Yeah.
Now, his dad, Marvin Harrison, was the opposite of any kind of diva. So he's had a different trajectory, different, wide receiver.
Yeah. It's a different day and age. Yeah, we're talking, but like you said, he had nothing to gain, and for me, he gained. I put him. I really think that those top 3 guys are a lot closer, than people are giving credit. Everyone has, Marvin Harrison Jr. so much higher than everyone else. I think Neighbors, I think Odunze are right there on his tail. I think it is very, very, very close, and I think Odunze just moves up just a little bit, and I think it's neck and neck between, for me, both of them, as the best wide receivers. I think it is that close because, like you said, the physical stuff, he did all the physical stuff, but it was the stuff staying afterwards, going out there and competing when he doesn't need to, and just putting on a show. And like I said, the competitiveness to be able to go, man, I'm going to hit that time and run it 7 times. And then another one that I'm going to talk about that is consensus number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. I have a problem with the way people are talking about him, because everyone, acts like, oh, he's this super self-centered person, and he didn't do any of the medical, he didn't give any, won his medicals and stuff like that. Why does all 32 teams need it? There's realistically 5 teams that have a chance at him, and really it's probably more 3, the top 3 teams. So why does all 32 teams need it? He said, I'm willing, I will do the medical when I go to the meetings with those teams that we set up. And that, talks about him being a bad teammate and, self-centered person. He stayed all week. He was there every single drill when his teammates were out there. He was on the sideline cheering on Roman Dunze, who wasn't his teammate, when he's out there running that final 3-cone drill, pushing him to, hit it, out there cheering him on. And everyone wants to dog on him. Yeah, there is some immaturity, stuff with him, but I think the rap the kid's getting, character-wise, is pretty rough. And I think people are just, for me, all it is I see a lot of people trying to go, oh, it was me. I told you so. He's not that good. He's a me player, stuff like that. I think that's all it is people trying to say that. There's one guy out there said, since he didn't do the medical, I have him as a 4th-round grade. And well, I'm like, yeah, get off the kid. We know he's good. It's there. Because no one wants to say anything about Jaden Daniels, who didn't show up to any of that stuff. He wasn't there for, Brian Thomas or any of his other teammates. So why does he get the pass, but Caleb doesn't, even though he stayed? That's just my take on it. I think it's the kid's getting a bad rap for really nothing. I mean, he's blunt. I think that's the biggest problem. They ask him questions and he gives you the answer. It's not, oh, I'm going to tiptoe around you. It's blunt to the point. And they're like, oh, why didn't you throw? I didn't feel like I needed to. Go watch the 31 games I played in college. I think the live games say more than me throwing to the people out on the field out here.
Yeah,
and people are like, "Oh, that's such a a conceited answer." And I'm like, "Geez, come on."
It's also normal for the top 2-3 quarterbacks to not
Yeah,
throw combine.
right.
It's actually like they're like, don't throw. You don't know these guys. You don't know their timing. It's a bad environment for it. Do it at your pro day.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. 31 games. That's a lot in 3 ish years. It's more than Will Levis had. Sure, Will Levis, you need to go throw, right? We didn't get to see it. But yeah, now Caleb Williams is still going to be the number 1 overall pick, whether it's the Bears or someone else. And if it's the Bears, they'll probably mess it up. But
I mean, history's not on their side. But also, one last note: offensive line. This offensive line class there's a chance that we see a record broke for most offensive linemen taken in the first round. Record 7. There's a good chance that we have 8.
Wow.
This is one of the best drafts we've seen in several years, especially the early first couple days. That the first round is really going to be wide receivers, offensive linemen, corners, and a couple of quarterbacks. That's going to be the majority of this. I mean, there's a chance we see 6 or 7 wide receivers taken, probably 4 quarterbacks, 7 or 8 offensive linemen, and then probably 4 or 5 corners taken in. So it's going to be one of these drafts where you see people fall into the mid rounds and you go, wait, how are they here? Because this draft is so deep. And you said Troy Fontenot from Washington, offensive lineman, he checked the boxes. We weren't sure if he was going to be if he could play tackle. So smooth throughout all the drills, quiet feet, everything that you're looking for. Same with Talisa Fuaga, who is, to me, I think he has jumped himself up to the number 2 offensive tackle in this draft. The kid from Oregon State is a mauler. And if you know me, I love a rough, tough offensive lineman.
That's what they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tubby, appreciate you breaking all that down. And that's not where the results for draft prep end. So keep with the W Sports Podcast. You're going to have all of Tubby's insights as we head into full draft mode, which is, believe it or not, next month, which is crazy because we're in March now. So we do have a couple of things coming up. So know that we'll have a bracket challenge. So last year we had a couple winners for that. It'll be the 3rd year we did the bracket challenge. So you can, if you plan on filling out a bracket, just add us to the group or whatever, or you can add your bracket to our group is what I meant to say over on ESPN. So we'll have all that in the next couple of weeks as brackets become official. So lots of stuff coming. And what I want to say also, Tubby, you sent me a text when this happened. We hit over 250 subs over on YouTube. So thank you guys so much for jumping in with the W Sports Podcast. Whether you're listening, downloading, you're sharing with someone else, or you're staying active in the chat, we want to say thank you so much. You're making this a ton of fun, and we love sports. We hope you do too, and we cannot wait till next Sunday as we hit the ground running with some more content. So keep it going. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I mean, a couple big things coming up in the next couple weeks. Football, you got franchise tag, deadline Tuesday, free agency starts 13th. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about in the next couple weeks.
Lots of movement, but we will have that all in the upcoming episodes. So stick with us. Till then, we'll see you all next week.
See ya.